and welcome to IMA's Inside Talk webinar series. The title of today's presentation is Looking Ahead, Key Trends That Will Reshape Accounting and Finance in 2023, sponsored by Sage. I'm Leanne Tobia, and I'll be your host for today's Inside Talk webinar. It's a pleasure to have Steve Shannon as part of our program, and he will be serving as moderator for today's event. Steve is the Director of Partnership, Marketing, and Business Development. Hi, Steve. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Leanne. Very happy to be here today, and I want to welcome everyone that's online with us to today's event with Sage. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our featured presenters for today's program. With us today, we have Judy Hanover. Judy is Director of Industry Marketing for the General Business segment at Sage Intacct. She brings almost 20 years of experience in industry content and product marketing, strategy, and market research to Sage Intacct. Most recently, she led healthcare and life science product marketing initiatives at Model N and Pure Storage, and spent over 10 years as an industry analyst and practice leader at IDC. Judy is passionate about go-to-market strategies that enable industries to leverage innovative technologies to improve customer experiences and drive results. Please join me in welcoming Judy Hanover. Next, I'd like to introduce our second featured presenter for today's program, Aaron Harris. Aaron Harris has more than 25 years of high-tech engineering experience in business applications and software development strategies. From Sage Intacct's earliest days, Aaron has led the company's product vision and technology direction. A pioneer in cloud computing, Aaron helped Intacct build the world's first cloud architecture, delivering on-demand financial applications. He regularly contributes to the development of best practices for cloud computing, service-oriented architecture, platform as a service, and accounting and finance technology standards. As Sage's global CTO, Aaron is responsible for Sage's technology and product vision. He is hands-on, leading investments in AI and machine learning, blockchain, and other emerging technologies to transform the way people think and work. Aaron holds a master's degree in information systems and a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Brigham Young University. Please join me in welcoming Aaron Harris.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Aaron. So before turning the presentation over to our speakers, I'd like to go over the learning objectives for today's program. After participating in this webinar, you will be able to recognize how to make the most of existing software investments and built-in AI capabilities in 2023. You will also discover what's next for cybersecurity in the cloud. You should be able to describe how developments like the rise of private equity and ongoing supply chain insecurity are changing the role of the CFO and finance departments. And finally, you will be able to explain how super apps can help you take your business to the next level, even during a recession. So we're really looking forward to an informative presentation. So I'm going to turn it right over to Judy to begin. Judy?
Thanks, Steve. And thank you for the introduction, and thank you to our audience for taking the time to join us today and to talk about some things that are very important to us here at Sage Intacct, and I'm sure to all of us as we look at the coming year ahead. So we're going to talk about 9 key trends that we've identified in talking with our customers, our colleagues, our thought leaders among us, and how they can help small and medium businesses navigate the upcoming year from the perspective of the accounting and finance professional. So one, we're going to talk about what you need to do to maximize your existing IT in an environment where budgets are flat and we need to make the most of our investments. How staffing challenges continue, but how they've evolved as we enter 2023. How second generation ESG, environmental, social, and social strategies have emerged. A little bit about cybersecurity, regulatory issues, and then talk about automation and AI, a subject close to our hearts here at Sage Intacct. Talk a little bit about the effect that private equity is having on the accounting and finance world, about supply chain recovery, and then talk about super apps and digital networks, some things on our roadmap here at Sage that we think are going to become the next big thing and the next road to true automation for our customers. Let's get started. So our first prediction is that firms will really start to approach the year with cost containment as a priority. Most will see flat IT budgets and look to maximize the use of existing software investments as a top priority. So most will be paying close attention to cost accounting and leveraging analytics, looking closely at the technology they already own, and then conducting regular vendor review cycles and putting pressure on suppliers. Continuing to rely on technology to conquer challenging economic conditions. And then the most innovative firms will move past RPA into building configurable automated accounting workflows. I heard a customer tell me the other day that if there's a way to automate it, they no longer want to do it manually. Erin, how are you seeing firms use their existing assets more effectively in the coming year and making that a priority?
Yeah, I mean, hi, everybody. It reminds me of the early days at Intacct when I was a coder and I did customer support and I was in sales and, customers had my mobile phone number and, a common conversation, because we were really learning how to build the product and meet customer requirements. They were constantly asking for capabilities, and at least half the time, my answer was, well, it's already in the product. I don't have to build it because it's already there. And so there is, with products like Intacct, and this is going to be true for many of the products that support businesses, over time, they develop a lot of capabilities. And as companies get bigger, they can they tend to kind of get lost a little bit. And so I would guarantee you that the products that you're already using in your businesses have capabilities that are untapped. And so you should absolutely look first in what you have before you go on to do new stuff. Now, robotic process automation, I'm on the record not saying terribly kind things about it. I think it's a little bit of lipstick on a pig, but sometimes lipstick's needed. And I think the misconception here is that robotic process automation is only for large enterprises. It takes millions of dollars to invest in it. And the reality is it's here today. It's available. It's inexpensive. Anybody can use it. And so by all means, everybody should be investing in digitizing their workflows, like reimagining for a digital world. But if you don't have time to do that, go grab some RPA software and figure out how to automate that pesky, task that you're spending 2 hours doing every day, but it's 100 repetitive clicks and you're probably watching The Office while you're doing it or something because it's so boring.
Yeah, I think our mantra for 2023 will be, if it's manual and repetitive, you should call us because we've probably found a way to automate it. Awesome. Let's move on to our second prediction. So in 2022, we did a lot of research and a lot of, spoke a lot with our customers about the trouble they had hiring at really all levels within the accounting and finance department. But what we're seeing as we, kind of go into 2023 is that most of our companies have been able to leverage automation and analytics to guide junior staff towards more strategic roles. And while there's still a staffing crunch at the CFO and controller level, those positions are still a bit hard to hire. We're still seeing fractional CFOs and outsourcing and other arrangements like that. But being able to shift junior staff towards more valuable work has really been key for allowing companies to beat the labor crunch last year and move towards the next stage of it in this coming year. What are you, Aaron, tell me a little bit about how you're seeing the labor crunch change in 2023 amongst our companies and
so a few things. I think, obviously companies are having to react to the shortage of talent, but I also think it's imperative for the incoming generation of accountants who are, they've got higher expectations about technology. They expect things to be automated. And so it's sort of not only making sure that with less resources we can do more, but it's also, making the right investments into the talent that's coming into accounting teams. And I guess one thing that again is a bit of a misconception. People usually assume that what happens when you implement automation and you generate all of this time savings is that you reduce the size of the accounting team, right? And you put the money somewhere else. The reality is I've never, ever in all my years met an accounting team that had the people they needed to do everything on their list, right? So I've never seen a case where it led to making the team smaller. It's always led to taking on the projects that were, always on the back burner. So, take care of the incoming generation, treat them right and get them working on stuff that's valuable that you didn't have time to get to before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and talking about that next generation and their expectations, there's fewer accounting grads than ever, but they're learning business analytics in school. They're expecting to join companies that have those tools for them to use, and they're expecting to see automation. Another thing that they're expecting leads us to our third prediction, which is about environmental, social, and governance. These efforts have been showcased by companies in recent years, when it comes to prioritizing how companies become sustainable, how they interact with the environment, how they really execute and prioritize ESG efforts. We really see differences in how this is being applied in 23 across the world. We've acquired a company called Spherix, which allows you to automate carbon accounting as part of your Sage Intacct ecosystem. And we're seeing, a little bit more progress in companies where ESG is mandated than in regions like the US and Canada where it isn't. But in general, when it comes to hiring and having, those attractive corporate values for the younger generation, ESG, the importance of ESG isn't expected to change, whereas the costs and the way that we execute ESG programs likely will. How are you seeing ESG change, and how are we changing how we run our ESG programs at Sage Intacct?
Yeah, I think one thing that we should call out here is, I'm placing a bet that the world, society is going to expect finance leaders and accounting teams to take ownership of the planning, the measuring, and the reporting of commitments against ESG. The accounting and finance teams already have the discipline to run the right processes. They've got the controls in place to ensure that when data is reported, that it's accurate and it's trustworthy. And so it's very natural, I think, for the finance and accounting teams to take on this responsibility. It's coming everywhere. So I'm actually coming to you from the northeast of England today, where in a year from now, companies with greater than $35 million of turnover will be required by law to report some basics of their carbon emissions. And that will then roll to smaller companies over time. It's reasonable to expect that it's going to happen in the US. Any global organization that has to comply in the EU or in the UK, by definition, they will require support from their supply chain partners, right? So if you serve big multinationals with your products, you can expect this is going to come, even if it doesn't become a mandate soon in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're all concerned about the environment. I live in South Florida. We've seen storms on a scale we've never had before. And, I've only been at Sage for 2 years, but seeing the company's commitment to volunteerism and the environment and just participating in the communities where we've operated has made it a great place for me to work. And I know it's attractive to younger staffers at all companies. So it's great to see companies continuing to run ESG programs, even under the newfound budget constraints that they're all experiencing. So now I'd like to turn it back to Steve for our first poll question for those of you who need CPE's credit for today's presentation. And the rest of the audience, we really encourage everyone to answer.
Thanks,
Steve?
Judy. Yep, thank you. So this is our first poll question, as Judy mentioned, and you should see it now open on your screen. And throughout the presentation, if you cannot see the poll questions, please refresh your browser, which should typically correct any issues. And I want to remind all of you that you can begin responding as soon as you see it on your screen. So the first polling question is, what is your overall prediction of your organization's financial performance in 2023 versus last year? You can choose from among A, 2023 will achieve better financial performance than 2022, or B, 2023 will have similar financial performance as 2022, or C, 2023 will have lower financial performance than 2022. And again, please note that after selecting your answer, you must click the Submit button located on the right side of your screen, just below those response options, so that you can have your response recorded. And Judy, as we wait for more of the audience to respond here, this is a great question. Obviously, there's no forward performance issues here in terms of safe harbor, but it's going to be super interesting. And I don't know if you want to make a quick prediction as to where you think most of the responses will fall, but we're good to go with the results if you'd like to now.
Yeah, I think, Sage reported its first quarter results, I think last week or the year before. So we're, definitely so far in the similar to better category. I think, if you look at the confluence of world events, it's easy to be pessimistic. But it's also, I think companies that really take advantage of automation that, are really at the top of their game in their industries, and really take advantage of technology to the fullest. Definitely, I think 2023 is up for grabs as far as, financial performance. What are your thoughts on that, Aaron?
Well, I mean, the pattern is that during recessionary times and times of kind of tumult in the economy, a new generation of leaders emerge. It really creates the environment for more urgent innovation, for a bit more discipline in how companies allocate resources. And so the one thing that I can predict pretty confidently is that when things get a little bit more stable in the future, those companies who made the right investments now are going to be very well positioned to take advantage of the more robust economies that always come out right the other end of these cycles. And I got to say one more thing here. I've seen the rest of the questions in this presentation, and I promise they get harder.
Okay. Steve, where are we at with audience response, and can we move to the results?
Yeah, go ahead and click on the next slide. There you go.
Oh, so we've got a gathering of optimists. That's great. So most, and it does vary by industry. You know, there's industries that are more recession proof, like healthcare and finance, than others. But yeah, you know, I think most of us with 42% of expecting better performance, or another 38, you've only got about 18% who don't expect to do as well as they did in 2022. So we're all looking forward to working with you on having a great year. Awesome. I'm going to move on. One example from our customer base, and I'll let you guys go back and take a look at this after the presentation. You do have the opportunity to download the deck. One of our kind of marquee examples of ESG success is Dakota Hotels. It's a UK chain of boutique hotels, and they've been able to save tens of thousands of pounds a year by paying closer attention to their ESG footprint, and being able to shift towards renewable energy and just reduced energy usage. So it's definitely possible. We've seen it in our customers, and it's a great way to both improve your profitability while at the same time meeting your employees and country or region's ESG goals. All right, let's talk a little bit, and we really do mean a little bit about cybersecurity. Aaron, I'm just going to go directly to you. I think you know, we've kind of anticipate you know, just pretty much more of the same when it comes to cybersecurity. What's your take on that?
Yeah, this is going to be a prediction every year for the foreseeable future. You know, the particular risks that we talk about, you know, they come in waves. There's going to be new risks in the future. So I think, you know, enough said. Make sure that you've allocated enough of your investment to adequately maintain your security stance, right? This is not a do the projects and then you're done kind of world. This is continuous vigilance, continuous investment. And, you know, one thing that I think I would add that maybe you don't hear very often is that you're likely going to get hacked at some point if you're in business. And so it's also important to invest in, you know, how do you respond? You know, practice what you will do as a company when you do have an issue. Sometimes limiting the damage that's caused can be as valuable as the investments that limit the cyber attacks from happening in the first place.
Can you talk a little bit about what we mean by zero trust security?
Yeah, so I guess there's two worlds, right? One world is everything that you do for work, you log into your VPN. And once you're in your VPN, it's sort of free range. You can do whatever you want. And there's this certain trust that the VPN is going to keep the bad guys out, right? And it's only going to let in the employees who are authorized. And we really don't worry too much about what they do once they're in. Well, zero trust essentially says you cannot depend on any defensive measure. So every asset in your portfolio, you've got to individually secure. You have to expect that you cannot put into place sort of broad measures that protect the entire business. The other implication of zero trust security is that, you know, if there is an issue, the impact is minimized because it doesn't flow across, you know, every part of the business. Typically, it can be contained within the particular application or asset that was hacked. So it's again, it's a bit of a cynical view, unfortunately, but it's a view that leads to better outcomes.
Great. Let's move on to our fifth prediction. So in 2023, the regulatory environment will become increasingly regional as the U.S. kind of continues in a post-COVID slow period without a lot of activity from the financial governance bodies, while invoicing initiatives and in Europe and the Making Tax Digital timeline in the UK continue to stress accounting and finance resources. So I'm excited. I wish we had Making Tax Digital in the US. I hate calculating my own taxes. So I think that these exciting initiatives overseas, where the calculation and execution of tax reporting would be automated, are so exciting. I think for countries where e-invoicing has started, it's become so initially what we've seen is customers totally stressed by this notion of having to participate in this. But once they get started, and one of the places where we saw that most in the UK, it was in the UK, where the deadline was just pushed out, but many customers had already started implementation, where they're seeing great benefits from this. Aaron, what's your take on e-invoicing and making tax digital?
Well, I mean, the punchline for me is that occasionally governments do things that make the world better, and this is a great example. So we did some research on this. In the UK, probably 2 years ago, they launched a big digital initiative around banking, around standardizing financial reporting, and the entry, the big opening statement of the project that they initiated essentially said small businesses missed out on nearly 30 billion pounds, $35 million of credit, because they didn't have the same means of accessing the market. And so in addition to all the other goodness of driving digital transformation, one of the benefits that's often overlooked is it levels the playing field. These regulations require that every business behave the same when it comes to reporting their financial results, when it comes to interacting with their banks. And so there's often a disproportionate benefit to smaller and medium businesses who just, prior to these regulations, wouldn't have had the resources to access some of the capabilities that larger businesses do. And it's the responsibility of organizations like Sage to create that technology that enables small and medium businesses to comply in very easy and accessible ways.
Mm-hmm. There's one statement at the bottom here about the one area where we do expect to see more regulation globally is around the acquisition, banking, and trading of cryptocurrency. And here we want to make sure that we separate the notion of cryptocurrency from the use of distributed ledger technology and the actual, software techniques and technologies behind cryptocurrency as they affect it, as they are in use in other industries and other ways outside of cryptocurrency. Aaron, what's your take on digital ledger technology and probably not on banking and trading and regulation of cryptocurrency, but how should companies be looking at this area of the business?
So I guess the first thing I would say is this probably looks a little bit like, well, duh, of course. But I think, Judy, you and I talked about this before, the collapse of FTX and the whole meltdown of the cryptocurrency market. So we really did. This is one prediction that came true even before we went to production. But I think the point remains that the technology that enabled the cryptocurrency market still has the potential to be really revolutionary to our markets, even beyond our markets, some of the ways that civilization operates. And it's really a shame the way that some organizations have taken advantage of the hype, have taken advantage of the information imbalance between the companies that are building this stuff and the investors who want to perhaps get a higher return than is reasonable. So it's frustrating that these players are really causing some doubt in crypto and the broader technology that supports it. But the fact remains, we're going to come out of this. It's going to weed out the bad actors. It's going to be more stable. We're going to have regulation, and at some point, we will realize, the full benefits of cryptocurrency.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked in last year's trends and predictions about how businesses would, be working to try and, at least accept, B2C payments in cryptocurrency. And I think that urgency, I think FTX kind of drove that out of everyone's minds. But yeah, I think that the technology behind it is so promising, and we're hoping to see more and more advance in use of that in the coming years.
Yeah, Judy, one more quick point. FTX was running on a popular, very low-end accounting product as a company that supposedly was carrying a $25 billion or so on their balance sheet. So I'm not saying a better accounting product would have prevented this from happening, but it wouldn't have hurt.
Yeah. It's sad to see an industry like cryptocurrency. We see a lot of tech debt in industries like transportation, aviation, consumer services, where we do a lot of work. But it's kind of sad to see that in an up-and-coming industry like cryptocurrency, where something as simple as not really having good accounting could have really taken them down to the extent that they did. I wanted to talk a little bit about, I'll let you go over this on your own, but one of our customers in the transportation space, Osprey, which actually, is a large-scale transportation by sea, by rail. They do things like deliver windmills to offshore wind farm construction sites. But this is a customer that we've worked with and that participated and spoke on the UK webinar, if you want to check out that version of the trends. But really saw, from electronic invoicing, a lot of benefits to them. They kind of implemented it before the deadline and are really seeing a lot of benefits to cash flow management, to being able to just really optimize and make their business more efficient, and just saving so much time on a day-to-day basis. So really great results from automating their invoicing and really eliminating manual processes at Osprey. So now I'd like to turn it over to Steve for poll question number 2. Steve.
Okay, great. Thank you, Judy. I see, yep, so it's on the screen now, and you can begin to answer the poll question as I read through it. So the second polling question is, what is your top priority for implementing technology in 2023? Choose from among A, maximizing use of existing software investments, or B, leverage analytics to reduce costs, or C, automate accounting workflows and reduce manual processes, D, meeting regulatory requirements, or E, improving security of systems and data. Not a bad choice among all of those, but it'll be very interesting to see what you come up with. So please be sure to click the submit button. And we will hang here for just a few seconds, Judy, and then I will prompt you to click on the next slide. Yeah, I mean, it's a really good list of priorities. So, if everything's a priority, nothing is, as the saying goes. So let's take a look-see now and see how the audience responded. Just go ahead and click on the next slide.
Yeah, I think Aaron and I pretty much gave the answer if you were listening to our first prediction about what we thought it should be. So it'll be really interesting to see and probably role dependent, what our customers identified. Okay. So automating accounting and workflows and reducing manual processes, absolutely, that's an A+. If you haven't started along that path, you need help, you should reach out to your accounting automation or accounting system vendor and look for ways to use existing functionality. But I think that answer A is also just maximizing the use and the value you're getting from your existing software investments. I think, as we look at 2023, we're frustrated when we look at customers who are, struggling with specific issues like fixed asset accounting or, automating their accounts payable, things like that, that are really built into our product. But we need to help them to, re-implement or add that functionality to their ecosystem. So excited to see that the folks on the line today are looking at the priorities for 2023 in the same way that we are. So let's talk a little bit more about automation and what you can do to be successful with automation in 2023, and move on to our sixth prediction. So really, automation and AI will continue to proliferate in 2023. If you've started along the path, you've seen some of the benefits. You probably, are looking to see, it's just one of the questions I ask our customers next. What are you going to automate next? What's your next priority? So during 2021 and 2022, many firms found automation to be a key strategy to mitigate the labor shortage, alleviate internal staffing pressures, and really add efficiency and improve customer service. As a rule, our customers who've added automation tools like general ledger and AP automation have found that the more rote and repetitive tasks they're able to offload to AI, the more they're able to focus on the efficiency and accuracy of their accounting, on higher level tasks like the strategic direction of the organization, the more attractive they are to new and junior staff, the more advancement of opportunities they create for those staffs, and just the more benefit they're able to deliver to the organization. Aaron, can you talk a little bit about where the roadmap for automation and AI will take us in 2023?
Yeah, and I'm going to try not to be too dramatic here. I mean, this is another prediction that'll be there, every year. I do think, however, that we're going to look back on 2022, 2023 as the year everything changed. There have been a few very memorable moments in my life where I've, had an experience with technology that really changed the world for me. One was the first time I put my hands on a computer. Another one was the first time I experienced the internet. And I had one this year, the first time I used generative AI to create art. And then again, when I used generative AI to compose a job description, I asked ChatGPT to write a play for me. I'm not going to tell you the context of the play. It's really funny, actually. There's not much that we can't accomplish with AI. There's a big scramble going on amongst companies right now to figure out how best to leverage this big step forward that we've experienced this year with ChatGPT, with Stable Diffusion. I mean, there's just incredible breakthroughs. And I guess the two bits of, well, I might come up with more than two. Let's see how it goes, right? So a couple bits of advice. So number one, change your mindset. If you have any doubts about whether something can be automated, it probably can be. It's just a matter of figuring out the right tool and the right way to do it. I taught my 27-year-old daughter the other week, who's not a programmer. She's a marketer by trade. I taught her how to connect a bunch of systems to enable her to, I think she deduped a list of Instagram accounts or something. I don't know. But the point is, with a little effort, the technology is just available to do anything now. And the second thing that I would say is, expect more from your vendors. It's really not your job to figure out how to use AI to get tasks done. It's our job, right? We should be using AI to really effectively change the way you work. So, hold us to a higher standard. You shouldn't have to figure out how to do it yourself. That's our job. And, hold our feet to the fire, because there pretty much isn't anything we can't do now. It really is remarkable what's happened in just the last couple months.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in my turf in marketing, I've been experimenting with a couple of apps like Write for Me and Jasper, and when it comes to the little pieces of writing we do, obviously not this trends report, which was heavily researched, but when it comes to basic things like writing a blog, they do okay. I mean, you still need to touch it up, you still need to edit it, you still need to make it your own. I don't think human writers are, or at least I hope, since that's what I do. I don't think human writers are going to go away soon. But these tools can help you get a lot closer to your goal, and really accelerate your work. It's fascinating to see companies starting to use them, starting to see employees starting to use them, and really start to trust in them. Because I think when AI was introduced, that was this black box. Oh, it's going to make a decision for me. And I was in the healthcare world, and my AI knows more than my doctor, really. But when you think about the capacity of the human brain, I think it's like 290 petabytes or something like that, and the capacity of an AI system, you're talking about just two different levels of knowledge. I don't think AI replaces human understanding, but or may never. But the potential for it to accelerate human work is phenomenal and fabulous, and just one of the most exciting things I think that's happening in technology right now. Cool. So I want to talk a little bit, show you about another customer. This is Tender Greens. They're a sort of healthy, kind of not fast food, but kind of, medium, I'm going to butcher this. Anyways, they're a hospitality customer of ours on the West Coast. And they've really been able to use reporting and dashboarding to increase the financial literacy of their managers, and slash their accounting overhead and gross 20% and gross sales 90%. Really by using AI and automation in their projects. So a lot of great success stories. We really encourage you to reach out to us to talk about how we can make you successful, like Tender Greens, like Osprey, like Dakota Hotels. The future roadmap for automation, really the next stage of AI, when systems progress from routine decision making and fully digital processes, is really increasingly a reality for some adopters of AI. I know you covered a little bit of this in your discussion of RPA and where it belongs in the hierarchy of AI, Aaron. But what are your thoughts on really this movement to, into fully digital processes, and what it'll take for companies?
Yeah, I mean, fully digital processes, and by that, what we mean is that every task in a workflow is automated using digital technology. And the benefit, obviously, is it's instant, it's 100% accurate, it's more likely to be trusted. That is, the vision. And it's already happening for a lot of companies with select processes. Until we get there, we need AI. We need AI to automate, what human beings were doing. And one thing that I think is super important here is, what AI is able to do with automation is take a machine that was going 10 miles an hour and get it going 1,000 miles an hour. And what that means is when there's a problem, it's a bit more damaging. And so we've got this mantra at Sage that we make, for every investment in automation, we make an equal investment in trust and assurance. So, for example, we're making a lot of investments into automating the processing of invoices, the classification of invoices, but we have a team of nearly, of the same size that is using AI to detect potential fraud, to detect duplicates, to detect, over-invoicing, under-invoicing. There's a really big psychological element that comes when you deploy AI, because fundamentally AI is not going to work if the human doesn't trust the AI to do the job that the human was doing. And so there's got to be this equal investment in assurance and confidence and trust that goes along with these investments in automation, which is what this outlier detection capability is all about. Marketing was not involved with the name there, outlier detection. That escaped the labs somehow without marketing involvement. We'll come up with better names for future stuff. But it's super important, and it's really impactful.
Great. Now I'd like to go to Steve for poll question number 3. Steve.
Okay, thank you, Judy. So again, attendees can respond to this poll question, our third poll question today, as soon as you see it on your screen. So the question is, in 2023, will your business leverage AI technology to automate routine tasks like accelerating workflows, identifying outliers and errors? You have several choices to choose from. I won't read them all in the interest of time, so take a look at those and select the one that is most appropriate for your situation. But in the interim, I will, ask Aaron about, I think a lot of bias in AI in terms of algorithms and so on is kind of top of mind for everybody. Is there any consensus or any, sort of process that companies might go through to prevent bias?
Yeah, and I guess what I would start with is bias is more sort of incipient than people often think. If you really think through the problems we're trying to solve with AI, there are more cases than not where there's an opportunity for AI to make a problem worse. So you have to be super, super vigilant. You've got to be humble. Technology this capable requires a bit of humility when you approach it. There's got to be, concerted efforts to drive more diversity in the field of AI and data science. One of the nonprofit organizations that I spend a lot of time with is called Teens in AI. It's an organization that reaches young girls in parts of the world that have limited access to technology with the sole purpose of getting them excited about getting into the field of AI and data science. And so we've got to be working now on the next generation to really build out the diversity that we need in the field. And what we do at Sage to sort of compensate for, I'm not going to say a total lack of diversity. We're good in some areas. There's room for improvement. But we rely a lot on customer advisory boards. We're building an internal employee advisory board. There's a lot of diversity across the business that we can tap into. So, come at it with humility, and then make sure that you've got a good communication lines open with your employees and with your customers.
Okay, so looking at the results, we've really got a lot of existing investment in AI. And a lot of interest in getting into it in the future. I think the 20% not planning on utilizing AI technologies is a little disappointing, but hopefully we'll be able to bring them around in coming years as it really becomes embedded in more and more of the products that we use. So I'd like to talk a little bit about private equity, and I will remind you that there is an ebook that goes into more detail that we will put the link in the chat so that you can access that. Kind of go quick over this prediction so that we can get to some things I really want Aaron to weigh in towards the end. But really, if you haven't seen private equity affect your industry yet, you probably will in the US. And we're starting to see more private equity activity in additional countries. This is another place where we may see regulation as we look at the coming years, particularly in the real estate industry, where the cost to renters and home buyers has become so politicized. But regardless, we really expect PE to continue to be aggressive in the US and pick up steam in Europe in 2023. Supply chain recovery. I work on work with the industries like aviation and transportation, and we will say that supply chain recovery is continuing to proceed slowly and painfully. Global events are preventing us from recovering as fast as we probably normally would from the shutdowns caused by COVID, inflation, shortages of transport vehicles. Fortunately, we see that the container shortage that really hurt us in 2022 in supply chain has been resolved, but we're still seeing delays in components and the manufacturing of goods. In the UK, obviously the impact of Brexit is still felt. It affects the labor pool. Trade deals are still incomplete. And the war in Ukraine is presenting further disruption when it comes to transportation by road in the UK, as well as the availability of fuel and other resources. Inflation has further complicated recovery, as has trade union activity in the US and UK, as the cost of living has grown and the cost of transporting goods. Supply chain workers, like other workers, are demanding higher salaries, creating the wage price spiral that has been expected by and dreaded by economists. And then across the board, supply chain companies can also benefit from embracing logistics, AI, and predictive modeling, demand prediction, and adding automation to help optimize their businesses. We've seen a lot of success in trucking and aviation, air cargo enterprises amongst our customers in the US, and really seeing a lot of, it's a little complicated by some of the new fuel efficiency requirements and other regulations, but supply chains really continuing to recover in 2023, slowly, painfully, and definitely differing by region. So we've just got a few minutes left, so I wanted to make sure we got to our ninth prediction, because I know this is an area near and dear to Aaron's vision. So I wanted to just turn directly to Aaron and just ask you to share your vision for digital networks and super apps and what we'll be making available to our customers.
Sure. You heard me talk earlier about, we use AI to automate human tasks. We make them faster, we make them more efficient, but we don't necessarily change the workflow itself. If we really want to create, fully digital interactions where every interaction with your suppliers is end-to-end digital, if you've got fully digital models that allow your customers to buy digitally, if you want the ability with your banks, with your creditors, right, to fully digitize the workflows there, you really need to rethink the technology that enables all of these business applications. And what we've been saying now for a couple of years is that to really realize the true benefits of digital transformation, you need to build capabilities that run on networks, right? You've got to connect customers and suppliers on the same technology. You got to connect customers to their banks on the same technology. Governments, as I said, are helping us, right? They're now expecting us to connect digitally to government services. And so these networks are really going to become the way that business gets done as we march forward to ever more digital workflows. And they're going to enable completely new ways of working. So obviously we're investing a lot in this. A lot of the capabilities that we're bringing to market run on networks, and they enable these end-to-end digital interactions. AI makes things fast, digital makes it instant. AI makes it more efficient, digital makes it nearly free. AI can spot errors, with digital there are no errors. I'm probably stretching the point here, but this is the future that we're marching towards, and there's all kinds of benefits that arise from this. But I will remind you of one that I brought up earlier, which is that when we fully digitize workflows, we make markets more accessible, we make them more fair, we create equal access. We've got great examples of where we've delivered digital workflows to the market, and we've created more parity in lending rates, approval rates with some of these workflows. So it's not just about driving efficiency. It's also about addressing some of the ills that we have in our markets, the digital divide, the wealth divide. So I'll step off my soapbox. It really is what's going to enable the future. The reality is that other technology companies are seeing this and starting to follow. So digital networks will become pervasive. It'll become a part of how you evaluate solutions in the future. And you're going to want to know, what's the scale of these networks, who's connected, and what are the capabilities that the network powers.
Yeah, we're really looking, I think, at some level at a democratization of markets where, small players have, access like big players, and really a lot of progress, both socially and commercially. Now I'd like to go to our last poll question. So I will turn to Steve.
Okay, great. Thanks, Judy. And so also we'll go over, a couple of minutes, because I do want to there's been a lot of questions that have come in, so I want to make sure we get to, 3 or 4 questions. So anyway, the poll question number 4 is, what do you see as the top challenge for your accounting team in 2023? Do choose from among the following: talent to properly analyze financial data, or forecasting, financial planning and analysis, new regulations, or D, navigating complex technology. How about E, cybersecurity, data protection, or F, the economy, or 9, something else, so you're not sure. And again, please click the submit button so that we can record your answer as it comes in. And I'll just make just a side comment to Aaron, what you just mentioned too, and I'm sure everyone out there has had this. Anytime you go to a doctor or some sort of an appointment, you're invited to join, their portal, right? Which you can pay your, deductible on the portal. So it's a consumer-facing example of these networks that you're talking about and how they are creating, better digital workflows, right? And it just kind of happened overnight.
Still a lot of disconnected portals. I think hopefully digital networks will help bring those together, because it's a lot of different places where you need to interact with the different providers that you see in healthcare. So cool.
Yeah.
So it looks like we've got about 75. If everyone could please just finish answering this question and click submit. Take your best guess. I'd like to get it up a little bit more before we move on, so you have the opportunity for CPE credit.
Yeah, I think we're good to go forward, Judy.
Okay.
Everyone's, yep.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, top challenge is still talent, and the economy, whether it's and then forecasting and planning. Which obviously becomes more important as we have a more difficult economy expected. So it looks like we're on the same page with most of our participants. I wanted to, we've got a couple of quotes and a little bit more on super apps and digital networks. I'll remind you, take advantage of the ebook that's linked, as it's got even more information on this. And now we've just got a few more minutes, so I'd love to get you into the evaluation survey, and also to start to answer some of your questions. If you gave us your email and telephone number when you registered for the webinar, and you asked a question that we don't get to today, we will have someone from Sage call you and hopefully get you an answer to your question. Let's maybe, Steve, pick a couple of the
Sure.
ones we've highlighted and maybe get a couple answers out to our audience, who we think for their participation.
Yep, sure. So first one, it would be very simply, how can you track ESG?
Aaron,
yeah, I can. I'll spend 30 seconds on it. It's not easy. It's a lot of approximation. We use AI to classify bills, for example, to understand what the impact could have been. But I guess the answer is it's not an exact science. It's going to get better and better and better over time. One of the benefits of networks is it allows the AI to learn from the collective activity of all of the network participants. right? So the AIs only get smarter at classifying and predicting the impact as more and more businesses start to adopt the capabilities that enable the reporting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kind of keeping with that AI theme, can BI, business intelligence tools, be used for AI?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we learned with some early projects doing forecasting with AI is that, AI is not necessarily better at forecasting than humans. Sometimes it's a little better, sometimes not quite. But what it's really good at is sometimes these forecasts can be really, really tedious to create, take a lot of resources. There was a company we worked with that could only forecast renewals once a quarter. The AI that we created was pretty good. It was about the same quality as the human, but they could run it every single day, right? And so what that meant was that when there was a change in the forecast, they had time to adapt. So, what the AI is doing is making everything more efficient and faster. It's not necessarily changing the outcome, but in this case, right, it enables a company to quickly adapt.
Okay, thanks. So I'll end. I'm sorry, Judy, go ahead.
Oh, no, I do see a couple questions about the results from the polls. And some of the questions were taken from a survey we are currently running with the Controllers Council. And those results and some of these poll questions will be presented in another webinar that we're doing on February 7th. So you should look for that event and sign up if you're more interested in the poll questions we had today, as well as to check out the ebook from today's conversation.
Okay, great. And I just will mention that, we don't get our phone numbers, so anybody that has questions will be contacted via email. So don't worry about that. Well, we're a few minutes past, so thank you so much, Judy and Aaron. It was a phenomenal presentation, and I will turn it over to Leanne to wrap it up.
Great, thanks, Steve. And I'd also like to thank our presenters, Aaron Harris and Judy Hanover, for sharing their knowledge and expertise with us. We're very appreciative that you've made the time for IMA and our audience today. Also, thank you, Steve Shannon, for moderating today's event. I want to thank Sage again for today's webinar, and thank you all for your participation in today's event. I look forward to spending time with you again soon when we'll enjoy some more Inside Talk.